When a shark cuts towards swimmers beside a U.S. warship, the ocean stops being a playground. Armed lookouts, lifeguards, medical teams, and helicopters can be activated within minutes. In an era of Red Sea tensions and extended carrier deployments, even a swim call becomes a controlled military risk. On these massive warships, a swim call is never just a spontaneous moment of relaxation. It is a meticulously planned standard operating procedure where every risk is calculated in advance. Typically, when a U.S. warship sends sailors into the water, it must set up an extremely rigorous, multi-layered security system. This system includes layers of surface observation, a permanent rescue team, and armed guards. Below the surface, motorboats or recovery vehicles are always kept running and ready. The ship's medical team shifts to battle stations, prepared for emergency Medevac scenarios. Look at the case of the aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman in the Mediterranean in August 2022. Hundreds of sailors jumped from the side of the ship to swim and exercise after long, grueling days. However, a large portion of the crew was not allowed to swim. Instead, they served as lookouts and lifeguards. They stood on the high decks, observing the water's surface with the naked eye, or binoculars, looking for any unusual signs around the swimming area. The irony lies in the fact that a ship can carry long-range radar, anti-air missiles, and the world's most advanced electronic warfare systems. Yet, when dozens of humans are adrift in the water, all that technological might is useless against an 8-foot shark. The moment a single fin appears, the entire operational tempo of a multi-billion-dollar vessel must shift instantly. The ship's most joyful moment is also its most vulnerable in terms of personnel. While one part of the workforce is in the water, the rest must guard the sea, as if defending an active combat zone. On a U.S. warship, a swim call is never allowed to devolve into an unplanned picnic. Every action follows iron discipline to ensure no one is left behind. Shark Watch is the final and most visible line of defense while U.S. sailors are in the water. This is a specialized detail where armed guards protect their teammates, not from missiles, but from shark jaws. While dozens of people splash in the waves, high-intensity eyes scan every square yard of the surrounding sea. In 2020, a rare incident occurred on the Coast Guard cutter Kimball in the Oceania region. As nearly 40 sailors were enjoying a swim in the ocean, a shark, approximately 6 to 8 feet long, suddenly lunged at them. The animal aimed directly at the swimming group at high speed. Immediately, a maritime enforcement specialist on deck made a split-second decision. He fired continuous bursts into the water with an assault rifle to create massive splashes and noise. The goal was not to kill the shark, but to generate acoustic interference and water pressure. The rounds churning the surface forced the shark to veer away, buying precious seconds. Thanks to this intervention, all 40 people were able to scramble back aboard via pilot ladders and recovery nets. The Shark Watch protocol operates with zero hesitation. First, lookouts must detect a fin or unusual water movement from a distance. Once a threat is identified, an alarm sounds, signaling all swimmers to exit the water immediately. If the shark continues to approach, the armed watch intervenes with deterrent fire. Simultaneously, rescue teams and crew members coordinate to pull swimmers up vertically as fast as possible. Once the last person is out of the water, a muster is conducted to ensure no one is missing. No radar system is as effective as a pair of eyes, looking in the right direction when teammates are adrift. The shark may not know it is swimming near a government vessel, but the guards on deck know exactly what their responsibility is. If an actual attack occurs, the situation shifts from risk management to a race against death within minutes. When bitten by a shark, the greatest danger lies not only in the physical wound, but also in the acute blood loss, traumatic shock, intense pain, and the risk of infection. In the vastness of the ocean, the distance to land is often measured in hundreds of nautical miles, and a large warship cannot simply turn around or enter a port instantly. In that scenario, the decision to call for a medevac becomes the commander's top priority. A classic example occurred in 2018 off San Francisco when a Coast Guard helicopter crew had to rescue a shark attack victim. They performed a technical hoist from a vessel moving through heavy swells to transport the victim to Stanford University Medical Center. Before a rescue helicopter launches, a rigorous medevac checklist must be cleared. Operations must evaluate medical necessity, current weather conditions, and the exact distance from the ship to shore. They must calculate minimum fuel, night flight capabilities, and identify a safe hoist zone on the ship's deck. A medevac is a costly and high-risk operation, usually reserved for threats to life, limb, eyesight, or severe pain. In an offshore medical evacuation, the question isn't just whether to save the person, but whether the rescue can be performed without creating a second disaster. Holding a helicopter in a hover amidst high winds requires absolute coordination between the pilot and the ship's crew. Any small error during the approach could lead to a collision or drop the victim back into the sea. Far out at sea, the nearest hospital isn't a building, it's the cramped aft cabin of a helicopter, fighting to stay still in a gale. This is the ultimate test for any rescue medical team. The MH-65 Dolphin is the primary workhorse for medevac missions, a machine designed to face the harshest conditions. This helicopter features sophisticated automated flight control systems that allow it to maintain an extremely stable hover. Pilots can keep the aircraft stationary at an altitude of about 50 feet above the target, regardless of heavy sea winds. Technically, the MH-65E Dolphin boasts a cruise speed of 148 knots and a maximum range of approximately 350 nautical miles. With an endurance of about 3 hours, it is capable of long-range offshore patrols and rescues. However, the most difficult maneuver is the hoist, lifting the victim from the deck to the cabin via cable. As the helicopter approaches, the pilot must focus intensely on stability while the flight mechanic lowers the rescue basket. Rotor wash is a hidden enemy, reaching speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour and blowing away any unsecured items on the ship. Another lethal technical detail is the buildup of static electricity on the hoist cable. Crew members on the ship must never touch the basket before it hits the deck to discharge the static. Failure to do so can result in a massive electric shock that instantly paralyzes the ground assistant. Furthermore, the cable must never be tied to the ship, as a sudden rogue wave could pull the helicopter into the ocean. The helicopter doesn't just arrive to save lives. It brings wind, noise, static, and extreme time pressure into an already dangerous environment. If you think a rescue is just dropping a basket and pulling it up, the ocean will correct that thought very quickly. Every second spent hovering is a high-stakes chess match between man and the power of nature. In the military, being a good swimmer isn't enough to survive at sea. Programs like WET and SWET are designed to train individuals for worst-case scenarios, hypothermia, rip currents, disorientation, survival equipment, and escaping a plane crash into water. For helicopter crews, SWET is even more demanding. They might be locked inside a cockpit simulator, capsized underwater, and then have to escape using procedures rather than instinct. The goal isn't to swim gracefully, but to prevent their brains from shutting down at the crucial moment of survival. But SWET is only for rescuers, in case they themselves are in danger. In a real shark attack, the focus shifts back to the victim lying on the boat, bleeding and needing to be removed from the area as quickly as possible. Once the injured person has been stabilized, the rescue enters its crucial phase. The helicopter doesn't necessarily have to land, like in the movies. If the ship's deck isn't suitable, the crew will use a hoist, removing the victim from the ship without the landing gear touching the deck. The injured were placed in baskets, secured, and hoisted into the rear compartment of the helicopter. From that moment on, the ship was no longer the primary treatment site. The nearest hospital was the cramped rear compartment of the helicopter as it ascended from the sea. If it were an aircraft carrier or a ship with a suitable flight deck, the helicopter could land to retrieve the patient more quickly. But whether landing or hoisting by cable, the principle remains the same. Every second must be controlled. A change in wind direction, a false signal, or an unclean deck could turn the rescue into a second disaster. Sharks might be the most shocking and attention-grabbing image, but they are only one small cog in the ocean's dangerous machinery. In reality, the true enemy isn't jagged teeth, but the harshness of the maritime environment and procedural errors. For a swim call to be safe, a massive defense system must operate in total synchronization. From armed guards and medical teams to helicopter pilots and flight mechanics, everyone is a critical link. In the strategic context of 2024 to 2026 U.S., aircraft carriers operate in states of extreme tension. In the Red Sea, attacks from Houthi forces have forced the Navy to maintain a constant presence and extend deployments. This pressure falls on the shoulders of every sailor, making those rare swim calls incredibly precious, yet fraught with risk. On a modern warship, no detail is considered minor or harmless. A swim call needs a defense system, a hoist needs a long checklist, and a single shark can trigger a massive chain reaction. If you like videos that dive straight into how military systems actually operate, hit like and subscribe right now. Leave a comment below. In your opinion, what is the most dangerous element in this scenario? The shark, the rescue helicopter, or the vast ocean itself?